The Jewish nation is not based on race. The Jewish nation is not based on ethnicity. The Jewish nation is based on culture and religion. The Bundist movement includes both religious and non-observant Jewry. The political position of the Jewish Bund is not anti-religious. The political position of the Jewish Bund is non-religious. Capitalism is not free trade, and the free market is not free trade. Free trade works as simplistic trade autonomy. Socialism protects free trade among individuals and ensures fair trade among groups. Markets are systems of economic imperial control over that trade. Free markets are markets that bypass public interests while surviving under the protection of the state. The early stages of capitalism use free markets as a way to generate more profit. Then the capital enterprises centralize into monopolies. Capitalism is driven by the profit motive. In the system of capitalism, the maximizing of profits is more important than the welfare of mankind. Capitalism requires that the employed work harder for less income. Capitalism is also a policy between the employer and the employee. Employer and employee economically operate as slave and master. The employed do not keep the fruits of their labor in capitalism. In both socialism and capitalism, all labor, customer service included, has a set value. In the socialist economy, those who work together, and they each get paid according to how much they merit in their labor effort. Yet in the capitalist economy, those who work get their labor taxed by bosses, corporations, franchises, and banks who put the companies in debt, causing the companies to further tax the labor of the employees. Within the socialist system, the family home is protected as a right to life. Within the capitalist system, the family home is held hostage by landlords. Within the socialist system, the money is based on credit in the name of prosperity. Within the capitalist system, the money is based on debt in the name of profit. Capitalists always say, "You are free to leave this job. It is a matter of choice." Bundists reject communist theory, whether that communist theory is Marxist or anarchist. Bundists do not seek theocracy, yet Bundists do not slander theocracy. Bundists seek direct democracy and national cultural autonomy. Communists slander theocracy all the time. They also ignore much history to maintain this slander. Yet, at the same time, Bundists will stand in solidarity with communists whenever they are being ethical. Bundists do not seek to strike at communists by using sectarian slander. Bundists and communists are both socialists. Bundists, however, do not believe in communism. It is true that Bundists, Marxists, and anarchists have been forming autonomous Antifa groups against the domestic fascists attacking Mexicans and Muslims in urban cities of Arizona. These autonomous Antifa groups have not attacked unarmed civilians. Hence, this is why no news coverage has been given. The more organized an Antifa gathering is, the less media that Antifa gathering will ever receive. Just as the ultra-Orthodox Jewish groups in the Zionist state shut down the streets with marches because they refused to be drafted into the Zionist army and harm Palestinians, the Antifa in Arizona can and will shut down the streets with marches because we will not let the police brutalize anymore. Antifa has shown no fear of domestic fascists in Arizona, and thus Antifa will show no fear of police. Bundists do not support gun control, and neither do any of the communists that associate with Bundists. Guns don't kill people. Police pigs kill people. Police pigs who do nothing about neo-Nazi terrorist thugs. Police pigs that consider racial profiling to be justified. Police pigs who frisk teenage girls and grope their breasts. Such teenage girls need to be armed. Capitalism is the crony economic system of ownership into the hands of the wealthy classes of the world, ruling without the consent of the governed. Socialism is the economic system that, when studied from a historic point of view, is the economic system of the world religions. There are two types of socialist. Number one, non-communist. Number two, communist. Bundists fall into the category of non-communist. Marxists and anarchists both fall into the category of communist. Communists are socialists that seek to use socialism as an economic transition to communism. Communism is a society without differing religions and without differing cultures. Communism is a Eurocentric goal that neglects to look at the world beyond Occidental egoism. Sadly, the communists are confused and they misapply human nature. This is one of those few things that the capitalists are actually correct about, just not the way that capitalists would assume. Socialists of the non-communist variety understand this mess much better. And basically, the communists equate humans with dogs. They see that different kinds of dogs breed with each other. Thus, the communists seek to remove all differences in consciousness because they falsely assume that their Eurocentric philosophy is accurate. Communists are not even likely to admit that theocracy is more ideal than the goal of communism. Socialists of the non-communist variety are more likely to equate humanity with flowers. Certain flowers can not coexist within the same soil. Yet, coexistence does work within the context of multicultural cooperation like a garden. Capitalism in its early stages uses the free market system, yet capitalism is a system that in its beginnings is driven by much competition, equating to an inevitable economy of winners who win big and losers who lose big. The conclusion of capitalism is always monopoly. Much of the confusion is that people think that their possessions equate to private property. The possessions of a person or a family equate to personal property. Communities are dependent on public property, not private property. Socialists defend the rights of personal property and public property. If a corporation could own all the water on planet Earth, then this would be a perfect example of private property. Just to avoid any confusion, socialists do reject nationalism, yet not all socialists reject patriotism. A patriot is simply a person devoted to his or her country. We are in a time of extreme disinformation. Private central banks are capitalist institutions, yet many would like to say that it is corporatism that creates these private central banks. Corporatism and National Socialism are both forms of classical fascism. All socialists, whether non-communist or communist, are opposed to both corporatism and National Socialism. Socialists are against fascism. Neither of these ideologies, corporatism or National Socialism, could ever be confused as forms of socialism. Remember that both corporatism and National Socialism belong to the category of classical fascism. Corporatism is rhetorical idealism using a blend of capitalist and socialist statements to boost up a gangster thuggery in the form of ultranationalism. National Socialism is a racialist theory using emotional platitudes to detract blame away from the guilty onto victims. National Socialism is not socialism. Anarcho-capitalism is not anarchism. National Socialists believed in privatization because they shunned socialism. Yet opportunistic liars would say that the National Socialists had abolished private property. The truth is that they embraced private property more than the Germanist capitalists had. Private property is oligarchic ownership of natural resources. If a corporation owns a mountain, this would be a great example of private property. Anarcho-capitalism is not anarchism, because anarchism is a form of communist theory. And communist theory is within the variety of socialist thought. Anarcho-capitalism is based on the utopian belief of perfect competition. Anarcho-capitalism is also based on private property without the state. Yet the entire purpose of the state is to secure private property. And indeed, the only way to secure private property is the state. Perfect economic competition has never existed and can never exist, because economic competition is always a contest that concludes in economic bias. Abraham Weisfeld, Ph.D., Social Forum, August 8th, 2016, Montreal, Quebec.
Now, in terms of my own background and qualifications, in order to do my doctoral studies, I came from Ontario, from Toronto, here to Montreal, to continue my doctoral studies at the Université du Québec in Montreal. Learned French in order to do my doctoral thesis. Because no other political science department in a Canadian university would allow me to do a doctoral thesis, even though I was qualified to do so. I started doing my university studies in a Bachelor of Science in Physics, actually, at the University of Waterloo. But because of Palestine, I found it necessary to drop this scientific studies and went into the graduate school in political science in order to pursue the study of political theory, political philosophy, and the methodology required to do a proper critique of the Zionist ideology, which I have now done, now accomplished, and my doctoral thesis, which is published there actually, does a critique of Zionism, not from a historical point of view, because that's been done. The new historians, you know, specifically the most principled of which is Professor Ilan Pape at Exeter University in England, has done an excellent, you know, breakdown of what happened in '48 and the plan, Dalit, of the Zionist militias at that time to expel the population of Palestinians to the greatest extent possible, to achieve the occupation of the greatest amount of territory possible. So even though the UN Resolution 181 was the legal justification for the establishment of the Zionist state, nonetheless, we find that the end result of the war of 1947 to 48, actually, because the Zionist war against the Palestinian people started before the recognition of the state of Israel by the United Nations, and the expulsion of the Palestinians began before the UN actually took up and supported the resolution for the recognition of the Zionist state. And the amount of territory that was allocated under Resolution 181 was about a third of the territory of Palestine. And during the war of 47-48, the Zionist militias took control over 2/3 of the territory of Palestine. So while the Zionist state claims Resolution 181 as justification for its legitimate existence and recognition internationally in the geopolitical system, actually, Resolution 181 is a denial of the legitimacy of the present-day Zionist state, because it exemplifies the fact that the Zionist militias disregarded the resolution and the frontier that was established by the partition resolution, so-called, and went beyond that frontier to establish the 1948 State of Israel, which was later recognized by the United States of America within the same day. Actually, Russia beat the United States to the recognition of the Zionist State of Israel, because the communist parties throughout the world were pro-Zionist at the time, and actually supplied not only diplomatic and propaganda support through the various communist parties, but actually supplied the arms from Czechoslovakia so that the Zionist militias were able to fight and win that particular war against the Palestinians. Now, in terms of the work that I've been able to do, so rather than going into the historical aspects, and rather than going into the Judaic critique of Zionism, which is done as well by various individuals like Menuhin's father, and even some conservative, right-wing critiques of Zionism, like the book Perfidy, which critiques, the Zionist militias as well. There is a modern-day critique of Judaic critique of Zionism from Professor Yaakov Rapkin, who teaches at the University of Waterloo, Université de Montréal here. And so those areas have been taken care of. What I have done is an elaborate critique of Zionist ideology in political philosophy, going back to the origins of the nation-state concept, which has been used by the Zionist ideologues to establish a state along the lines of the European, political philosophy, 200 years later, totally out of context, in a completely different part of the world, which has had a history which is very much older than that of Europe. In Europe, the nation-state concept could be floated, for a while, because Europe was colonized only after the long period in which, the Middle East was peopled, by the human migration patterns coming out of Africa. So in the Middle East, we have, cities established, 7,000 years ago. Some of the first cities in the world, in Jericho, in Salome, which was, the predecessor of the city now called Nablus, or in Hebrew it's called Shem, which is the Israelis now use. When I actually went to Tel Aviv to visit my cousin, who was visiting her parents who still live there, and people would ask me, where am I living? And I would say in Nablus. And the Israelis did not know the name Nablus for that city, that Palestinian city, which is one of the major cities in the West Bank. They call it Shem, from the biblical, Hebraic name. Incredible, like difference, in mentalities between the Israelis, well-meaning Israelis as well, who just do not know anything about the Palestinians. And in fact, in the entrance to the Palestinian cities, there's this huge red, signs there, which proclaim in 3 languages that it is illegal for Israelis to enter into a Palestinian city under Israeli law, and they're subject to 2 years imprisonment if an Israeli goes into a Palestinian city. That's how much, apartheid has been established there. It's ingrained in the very law. Okay, so I have a formal presentation, which is going to be the introduction to a new book of mine, dealing with the transitional process of how, with the eventual recognition of the Palestine state, which I think is coming up in the Security Council in November after the American election, and the French resolution is going to be presented to the Security Council, calling for the recognition of the state of Palestine, which has already been adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations, but the Security Council seems to have more authority in geopolitical machinations. So this is a crucial vote, and this time the United States State Department is probably not going to veto the resolution. So Palestine is going to be recognized as an independent state in the short term after the American election and before Obama hands over presidential authority to the winner of that election in January. So there's November, December, January, anything can happen. And it is expected that the United States is not going to veto that resolution. So how do we proceed from that point forward? This is what I am beginning to address now. And the introduction I have here is going to form the introduction to introductory preface to this new book in which I'm writing about the transitional process. Okay, first of all, I'd like to express my respects to the DSTT Culture Committee here in Montreal, which stands for Diversity, Social Solidarity, Tolerance, and Transparency, and its organizer, Tarek Taha, with whom I'm working here in Montreal. I would welcome you to the session of the World Social Forum 2016. The forum is one with which I identify because of the momentum that is created on an international dimension that works to become a world constituent assembly that will supersede the existing nation states and its so-called United Nations. While there are now 194 recognized nations in the General Assembly, with Palestine being the 194th, it should be known that there are actually about 3,000 nations throughout the world in sociological terms. So in the actuality of social existence in the world, the United Nations does not represent the people of the world. It represents the nation states, the geopolitical system, and ignores all those nations that have not been able to achieve their independence, and ignores all the nations that are confined within the existing nation states and that do not have the recognition of a nation. And we can think of many such nations, including the Quebecois nation, the Kurdish nation, etc., etc. So, to break out of the bonds of the geopolitical world, we need to go to the civil society of each nation and to unite our civil societies as we are doing here at the forum. My own origin is that of a refugee kid from a Jewish family that had lived in Poland, both Warsaw and the city of Lublin. You should know that while the Zionist parties have used the Nazi Holocaust to justify a colonial project of occupation and expulsion, it was actually in the USSR, Soviet Union, that the most Jewish people fled to in order to escape from the Nazis. So about 500,000 escaped to Russia, while the Zionists made deals with the Nazi regime to get 60,000 of their own party members out of Germany and only 1,843 out of Hungary.
Zionists worked with the Nazis. This is a matter of fact. A Zionist even wrote a book about this. This is a public documentation that aired on April 22nd, 1984 on Channel 5 News.
Live on Channel 5, this is the 10 o'clock news with Deborah Norville.
Is coming out revealing secret negotiation between the Nazis and the Zionists in 1933, which allowed German Jews and their assets to go to Palestine. Rich Samuels joins us tonight with the story of the controversy behind the book and the author's struggle to write it. Rich?
Deborah, with the rise of Adolf Hitler to power in the spring of 1933, the Jews of the world were faced with a dilemma. They could raise a cry of protest, a cry few would heed, or they could make a deal with Hitler, a deal that would bring a step closer their dream of an independent Jewish state. The choice they made was difficult and agonizing. This new book describes that choice. The book is called The Transfer Agreement. This is Israel a few days ago, the season of Passover. And this is Germany 51 years ago, the blossoming of Adolf Hitler's springtime. A key factor in the vitality of today's Israel, the book's author argues, was an agreement reached in 1933 between a group of Zionists and the man who would later try to kill every living Jew.
The great irony is that Adolf Hitler became the chief economic sponsor of the State of Israel.
It will be an argument against, and a wrong argument against Zionists.
Some who lived through those times fear the response to this book. The parents of the author feared its very writing.
When your son came to you and said he was going to write this book, what were your feelings about his undertaking?
I told him he's not my son anymore.
Why did you say that?
I told him I'm going to sit shitty.
As though he were dead?
That's right.
I tell him I don't like it. because as being a Jew, I didn't want something to uncover on my own people.
I was buried in a grave with 27 people. I was 7 times captured.
Edwin Black's parents are Holocaust survivors.
For what?
My parents never talked much about the Holocaust. Just
Edwin Black, to fill the void left by the silence of his parents, has written this book, a dense, detailed chronicle of the early months of 1933. January 30th, 1933. Hitler becomes Germany's interim chancellor. The Third Reich has begun. But in this country, on March 4th, attention is diverted by the inauguration of Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
More power to you, President Roosevelt. The entire country's behind you, thrilled with hope and patriotism.
But ominous headlines tell what's already happening to the Jews of Germany. The protest of American Jews was heard almost immediately. It was based on only the sparsest of press reports, and nowhere was that protest more vocal than here in New York City.
All creeds, local and national organizations, and labor parties are joining this gigantic demonstration passing through famous Washington Arch. Rabbi Stephen S. Wise, honorary president of the American Jewish Congress, leads the procession down Fifth Avenue on foot.
Father arranged for the first great mass meeting at Madison Square Garden to protest Hitlerism. He felt that when freedom was threatened, silence condoned oppression always.
Thousands who waited hours behind police lines rushed forward as the doors of Madison Square Garden are open. Jews and Gentiles join in the race for seats, and 22,000 of them get in.
I was a young kid then, you see. I was a teenager. And I belonged to a Zionist youth group. And we were all summoned to go to that rally. Well, it was a very agitated crowd. Many Yiddish speaking, a few English speaking. Rabbi Wise mounted an appeal to the Jewish people to do something to save Jewish honor.
Most of the important, well-established Jews were very angry at him, said this was sensationalism, and that if anything happened to the Jews in Germany, the blood of the Jews would be on his head.
Dr. Stephen S. Wise, rabbi of the Free Synagogue and the national leader of liberal thought, speaks in behalf of the Jews of the United States.
This is not a Jewish meeting. This is the conscience of America making itself felt.
The conscience of Nazi Germany made itself felt 5 days later. Across the Reich, Hitler's troops shut down Jewish-owned businesses for 24 hours. Within days, American Jews marched calling for the boycott of all German exports. Jews throughout Europe echoed that call, so did Jews everywhere. But a group of Zionists at the same time was quietly negotiating an agreement with the Nazis to allow the immigration of German Jews and the transfer of their assets to Palestine. That deal, reported in August 1933, was the transfer agreement. Palestine, sparsely settled by Jews at the time, was radically changed as a result.
I lived in Palestine from 1933 to 1936, and we saw every week transports of German Jews coming to settle in Palestine. And many new professions were introduced by then into the country, and they played a leading role in making Palestine then a more advanced and progressive country.
Israel is really what it is because of the foundation laid by the Eastern European group, and then the lift toward an educated and well-organized government that came with the immigration of the German Jewish group.
German Jewish settlement of Palestine was, for a time, official Nazi policy. These photos of Jewish life in Palestine, along with a lengthy text, appeared in 1934 in the Berlin paper Der Angriff. The publisher, Hitler's propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels. A Nazi Visits Palestine was the title of the multi-part series. A medal was struck by Goebbels in commemoration. On one side, the swastika. On the other, the Star of David. Hitler demanded one concession for the transfer agreement, that the call for a boycott of the Reich, raised by Jews here and elsewhere, be rejected by the Zionists. The Zionists made that concession. And so, while Nazis were marching in Germany, and while Jews were marching here, diplomacy was running a more important story. In the Mediterranean, where the dream of a nation-state for Jewish people came a step closer to reality. The story in this book some will find hard to accept.
I still feel the hurt. But after I read it, I said, I'm all with you. Go ahead and write it.
Because everything was exactly what happened, and that's the truth, and you cannot deny it. And the truth must prevail.
And I'm not worried by the people who will find the book in bad taste. The smart people, the intelligent people, the people who went through will understand.
The author is torn between two profound feelings. That he has to be for a Jewish state, and that the silence which his parents have kept, well, he has to retaliate against that silence, and he takes it out on others.
It was a quest. It took me around the world. Financially, it depleted me. Emotionally, it drained me. And as far as my being a Jewish person and understanding my Jewish identity and my relationship to Israel and the Holocaust, it has fulfilled me.
The left-right paradigm is easy to explain, yet not everyone understands it. Many once did, not so much anymore. In George Orwell's book, 1984, we learn about newspeak. When a word has lost its context, this corrupts the thinking of individuals as well as collectives. For example, this is a picture of false left-right paradigm number 1. This is just a pathetic one. This fake paradigm was put out by two American Republican parties called the Democrats and the Republicans. It's spread around by the mainstream corporatized media and expressed by only those media zombies that believe in such nonsense. This false left-right paradigm is the left-wing liberal versus the right-wing conservative. Alright, this is a picture of false left-right paradigm number 2. This second paradigm is a more elaborate one. Definitely more elaborate than the previous, but still false. So it's the far left monarchy, the center left oligarchy, the centrist democracy, the center-right republic, and the far-right anarchy. And ultimately, what it comes down to is its total government on the left and no government on the right. And then this is a picture of false left-right paradigm number 3. So you'll see that the top is considered authoritarian and the bottom is considered libertarian. And left-right is in economic terms, and the economic left would be opposed to the economic right, and so I would say that in the upper left we have the authoritarian left, and then on the lower left we have the libertarian left, on the upper right we have the authoritarian right, and on the lower right we have the libertarian right. This is a picture of the correct left-right paradigm. This has been and still is the only left-right paradigm. The left wing is revolutionary and or rebellion. The center is reformist and or liberalism. The right wing is bourgeoisie and or conservatism. Liberals are usually the ones saving the power structure as they make concessions and offer handouts, which causes the masses to not seek revolution. The conservatives represent all powers to the elites, while the revolutionaries are the ones seeking to educate the masses with truth. And Typically, revolutionaries will achieve ends by all means necessary. True revolutionaries will only do what's necessary and not lose their cool if they are sincere and organized. Jewish relations with Muslims have always been good. The United States of America and the State of Israel cannot hide this fact. Americanists and Zionists have only one way of fighting the truth, and that is to ignore history. Abraham Weisfeld, Ph.D., Social Forum, August 8th, 2016, Montreal, Quebec.
So about 500,000 escaped to Russia, while the Zionists made deals with the Nazi regime to get 60,000 of their own party members out of Germany, and only 1,843 out of Hungary. And yet, the Zionist mentality continues to claim its superior position as the refuge of the Jewish people, even while they did so little to actually save the Jewish people during the Nazi occupation of Poland and the other regions there. Now, the great thing about being a second-generation survivor was that my mother was from Warsaw, and she was a Jewish Bundist. Now, you probably don't know what the Jewish Bund was, because not only is the history of the Jewish Bund suppressed by the forces that the political science departments that failed to recognize the existence of the Jewish people before the establishment of the State of Israel, because before that the Jewish nation was not supposed to exist. Therefore, it's wiped out of like historical analysis. But the Jewish Bund and what it stood for was also suppressed by the Zionist educational system, which took over all of the Jewish educational institutions throughout North America, South America. For instance, I went to a Jewish cheder, as it's called in Yiddish. In fact, English is not even my first language, and my first language is Yiddish, which is a Jewish dialect of German from the Middle Ages. And doesn't resemble Hebrew at all. Now, so I'm going to explain to you what the Jewish Bundist philosophy is, because it is the fundamental critique of Zionism. That you may not know that the Jewish socialist movement was more popular than the Zionists amongst the Jewish community of Eastern Europe is essential to understanding the difference between Zionism and the Jewish people, basically. As a result, I was raised in the Jewish and anti-Zionist at the same time. I did not have to torture myself to escape from a Zionist upbringing, since I was allowed to know that you don't have to be a Zionist to be Jewish. The culture as religion was assumed as a given, and although we did not care to consider the validity of the theocratic religious matters after the Holocaust, the congregation each Saturday morning was the key to life. In addition to the public Protestant English school in Toronto, I also studied at the Jewish Talmud Torah in the evenings. Talmud Torah means the study of the Torah. The educational methodology in the Torah study sessions was to read through all of the Hebrew version and to translate it into English, one sentence after another over 7 years, together with the other books like the Talmud, Gemara, Mishnah. It's a very elaborate, culture. However, and the great consequence was that I actually knew what was written in the Torah, and so knew that the Zionist pretensions were false as to their claims in Judaism for the establishment of this Zionist state. Aside from the matter of whether the deity is a valid concept or not, we can nonetheless delve into that historical text to find out what was intended in the first place, rather than what the Torah has been manipulated to be believed. For example, while it is not mentioned, it is evident that the historical figures, they were called prophets by named Noah and Abraham, were historical figures that preceded the existence of the Jewish people or nation, and it may be as it may be called. As such, the covenant with Abraham was not a covenant with the Jewish people alone. this is evident if you just consider, the basic facts that Abraham existed 500 years before the establishment of the Jewish people. So right then and there, you have a completely different perspective than the one is presented, by the Zionist ideology. In the text, as it is actually written, even in the revised Ezra version, that the covenant for the land of Canaan for guarantee of residence and co-residence with the existing nations there, which were 7. There were 7 nations coexisting in the Canaan territory there of what is now called the Holy Land, was for all the descendants of Abraham forever. And the word forever is exact. It is the actual word used in Hebrew in the Torah. And the word descendants of Abraham, is also translated as the seed of Abraham or the sons of Abraham.
In this news clip that I am about to show you, you can see Munther Amira getting arrested. This unlawful arrest took place on December 27th of 2017. Munther Amira is a Palestinian social worker who has 5 children.
خليت الأسرة جاهزة. صفية روحي كل مرفع الإعلام.
That was the unlawful arrest of Munther Amira that took place on December 27th, 2017. Munther suffers from high blood pressure and is currently detained in the Zionist-controlled Ofer prison. I now take you to a protest right outside the Ofer prison.
Okay, we've arrived at the Ofer prison. Here are all the demonstrators from all regions of Palestine who have come together to demonstrate today in solidarity with Palestinian prisoners. Here's the media presence. There's Ms. Tiani from the General Union of Palestinian Women.
السلام عليكم.
لا انا بدي بوستر
كيف مع الوجه العبيد
Okay, I'll move over here to show you the entrance to the Ofer Prison Tower. There we go. Another prison, another wall.
See that lookout tower? That is surveillance. There's hardly anything that they cannot see from there. Now let me take you on a detour. I would like to show you how the ultra-Orthodox are treated in the so-called Jewish state. It does not get more Jewish than the ultra-Orthodox, right? Yet, let us see how the Zionist police treat ultra-Orthodox Jewry. This aired on March 8, 2018. This brutality is ongoing, by the way. Watch this. Yeah, that's what you're having in the so-called only democracy in the Middle East, so the Zionists always say. Right. Well, that's what happens. Remember, no Judaism, no Jewish. And yet, if you believe in Judaism, which pretty much that's what sums up being Jewish, is believing in the religion of Judaism. You practice the Torah culture, well, that's what you're going to get. So, the state of Israel is stealing land from Palestinians, and it's also identity theft. It's identity theft against the Jewish people. It steals the identity of the Jewish people. And then, on top of that, it's stealing the land from the Palestinians. It is a double stroke, a double master stroke, against both Jewish and Palestinian. It's truly warped. Well, let's get back to Dr. Weisfeld's footage.
Okay, here we are at the entrance to the Ofer prison. Here's the first barrier of barbed wire. Stones. After that, a second fence. After the second barrier, another fence. Leading up to the guard tower. Oh, here we have a welcome sign. Let's see what it says. Oh, there's some more barbed wire. Here comes the demonstration.
يلا امشي امشي.
Free Musa. The gate is closing on us. Not as welcome as it seems. Says the hours of operation are from 7:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon. Not today.
فلسطين تسقط تسقط إسرائيل تسقط تسقط إسرائيل وإسرائيل نازية إسرائيل نازية إسرائيل نازية إسرائيل نازية عدو الإنسانية عدو الإنسانية عدو الإنسانية عدو الإنسانية ولا لا للاحتلال لا لا للاحتلال لا لا للاحتلال لا لا للاحتلال لا لا للاعتقال لا لا للاعتقال لا لا للاعتقال لا لا للاعتقال 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 occupation no more occupation no more 5 6 7 8 5 6 7 8 Palestine will be state Palestine will be state إسرائيل دولة إرهاب إسرائيل دولة إرهاب إسرائيل دولة إرهاب إسرائيل دولة إرهاب وإحنا منها ما بنهاب وإحنا منها ما بنهاب برا يا جيش الإرهاب برا يا جيش الإرهاب برا يا جيش الإرهاب فلسطين حرة حرة فلسطين حرة حرة فلسطين حرة حرة فلسطين حرة حرة وإسرائيل برا برا وإسرائيل برا برا وإسرائيل برا برا وإسرائيل برا برا
شنو هي في زيارة؟
برا يا جيش الإرهاب واحنا منك ما بنهاب واحنا منك ما بنهاب واحنا منك منك ما بنهاب واحنا منك ما بنهاب وامريكا هي امريكا هي امريكا هي امريكا راس الحيه امريكا راس الحيه امريكا راس الحيه امريكا راس الحيه ابو عبشة لو الارهاب برا يا جيش الارهاب برا يا جيش الارهاب برا يا جيش الارهاب واحنا منك ما بنهاب واحنا منك ما بنهاب واحنا منك ما بنهاب واحنا منك ما بنهاب وامريكا دولة ارهاب امريكا دولة ارهاب واسرائيل دولة ارهاب واسرائيل دولة ارهاب واحنا منها ما بنهاب واحنا منها ما بنهاب واحنا منها ما بنهاب واحنا منها ما بنهاب
ايش يا خالي؟
يلا كل شوي بيتك ايش؟ لا هو يلا دوس شوي بيتك يلا ايوه كلنا تمام ايوه والسلام برا يا جيش الارهاب برا يا جيش الارهاب برا يا جيش الارهاب واسرائيل دولة ارهاب واسرائيل دولة ارهاب واسرائيل نازية اسرائيل نازية عدو الانسانية عدو الانسانية عدو الانسانية عدو الانسانية برا يا جيش الارهاب برا يا جيش الارهاب واسرائيل دولة ارهاب واسرائيل دولة ارهاب واحنا منها ما بنهاب واحنا منها ما بنهاب لا للاعتقال لا للاعتقال لعيونك يا عميرة ولعيونك يا عميرة لعيونك يا عميرة ولعيونك يا عميرة راح نكسر تكسير اسرائيل دولة ارهاب اسرائيل دولة ارهاب واسرائيل دولة ارهاب واسرائيل دولة ارهاب وامريكا دولة ارهاب وامريكا دولة ارهاب وامريكا دولة ارهاب وامريكا دولة ارهاب واحنا منها ما بنهاب واحنا منها ما بنهاب واحنا منها ما بنهاب واحنا منها ما بنهاب وبرا يا جيش الارهاب برا يا جيش الارهاب وبرا يا جيش الارهاب برا يا جيش الارهاب فلسطين حرة حرة فلسطين حرة حرة فلسطين حرة حرة فلسطين حرة حرة واسرائيل برا برا واسرائيل برا برا وامريكا برا برا وامريكا برا برا 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4
المؤامرة الإسرائيلية الأمريكية هي
1 2 3 4
الإسلامي على الشعب الفلسطيني
Occupation no more! 5, 6, 7, 8! 5, 6, 7, 8! 5, 6, 7, 8! 5, 6, 7, 8! Israel is fascist state! Israel is fascist state!
Israel is fascist state.
برا يا جيش الارهاب وعميرة منك ما يهاب وعميرة منك ما يهاب والأسرى منك ما تهاب والأسرى منك ما تهاب والأسرى منك ما تهاب والأسرى منك ما تهاب ومن عوفر أعلناها من عوفر أعلناها ومن عوفر أعلناها من عوفر أعلناها والأسرى نجمة بسامها والأسرى نجمة بسامها وعميرة نجمة بسامها عميرة نجمة بسامها ولا نصب دشكة في الطيرة 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 ولعيونك يا عميرة ولعيونك يا عميرة ولعيونك يا عميرة ولعيونك يا عميرة وأمريكا هي أمريكا هي وأمريكا هي أمريكا هي أمريكا راس الحية أمريكا راس الحية وارفع ايدك وعليه وارفع ايدك وعليه وارفع ايدك وعليه ارفع ايدك وعليه الموت ولا المظلة الموت ويا أسير لا تعبس يا أسير لا تعبس ويا أسير لا تعبس يا أسير لا تعبس وبدك عسكر ابن البس وبدك عسكر ابن البس ويا منذر لا تعبس ويا منذر لا تعبس وبدك عسكر ابن البس وبدك عسكر ابن البس ويا أسير لا تهتم يا أسير لا تهتم ويا أسير لا تهتم يا أسير لا تهتم وشبابك شريب الدم شبابك شريب الدم وارفع ايدك وعليه وارفع ايدك وعليه
وارفع ايدك وعليه
الموت ولا المذلة
الموت وعلى المذلة
الموت ولا المذلة وإسرائيل دولة إرهاب أمريكا دولة إرهاب وإحنا منها ما بنهاب وإحنا منها ما بنهاب
شباب صبايا صبايا
وإحنا منها ما بنهاب
على الخلف
Hey.
اصحى
Are you proud of what you were doing?
هذه فلسطين إلنا مش إلك فلسطين روح على اثيوبيا يا روح هذه فلسطين إلنا فلسطين إلنا روح امشي فلسطين حرة
وجهكم
تفضل بس الغاز
تسكت في السلطة
لعيونك يا عميرة ارفع ايدك وعلي الصوت ارفع ايدك وعلي الصوت واللي بيقاوم ما بيموت واللي بيقاوم ما بيموت يا ابو عاهد يا حبيب يا ابو عاهد يا حبيب عمر شمسك ما بتغيب
Occupation no more!
Occupation no more.
Occupation no more!
Occupation no more!
إسرائيل دولة إرهاب!
إسرائيل دولة إرهاب!
إسرائيل دولة إرهاب!
إسرائيل دولة إرهاب!
وإحنا منها ما بنهاب!
وإحنا منها ما بنهاب!
وبرا يا جيش الإرهاب!
برا يا جيش الإرهاب!
برا يا جيش الإرهاب!
برا يا جيش الإرهاب!
ومنذر منك ما بيهاب!
منذر منك ما بيهاب!
الأسير منك ما بيهاب!
الأسير منك ما بيهاب!
Alright, there's more for you to see of this protest at the Ophir prison, okay? So, this Ophir prison protest you're seeing is a very important one. And what's going to happen next is going to be really, really, really messed up, and I need you to see this. But I am digressing just a little bit to bring up what I considered an intertwined issue. See, Palestine is under basically oppression and occupation, which is prison. Now, many times Palestinians have sought to fight back. The interesting thing is they were not completely without success when al-Fatah armed themselves. Okay, but then there was the Oslo con job that took place where Yasser Arafat kept his end of the deal, but the state of Israel didn't keep its end of the deal. And now a lot of Palestinians want to go back to arming themselves. We at the Jewish Bundesdiaspora movement support that decision. However, we also will support the nonviolent approach if it continues to gain sympathy, but only if it continues to gain sympathy. One of the problems that Jewish anti-Zionists make in the United States of America is we falsely assume that Americans will care. They don't care. Those that say that they support Palestine, how do I explain this? They only do so if it means that they're bashing Judaism or that they're bashing the Jewish people. in a way that they can get away with it. We have to denounce those people. Because we actually are against Zionism. We, the Jewish people, we really are against the Zionists. And we really will go out and reach out to the Palestinians. David Duke will not reach out to Palestine. And we know that. We know this all too well. So, anyway, this is, brings us to the problems that we don't want to talk about because we're scared of speaking, because we're afraid of confronting the American hypocrisy, I suppose. And that is the concepts of martial law. The fact that America occupies the indigenous Native American lands, and that we don't acknowledge that Mexicans are who they really are. I'll give you an example. The Mexicans are the same people as the Aztecs. The Aztec word for Aztec is Mexica. Alright? Think about that for a second. Then think about the fact that Israel is being armed by the United States of America. They cannot on their own, the Zionist state of Israel cannot on its own maintain its very existence without aid. So whenever you hear the controlled opposition Zionists speak, you know, the ones like, oh, I forget his name. I think it's Rabbi Cohen or something. He's a Yehuda Cohen or something. I forget what his name is. But he's a supposed left-wing Zionist who wants to live in solidarity with the Palestinians, but only under a Jewish Zionist nation-state or whatever. And he even says that Judaism was the original nationalism and that it later became a religion. He neglects to mention George William he fails to mention George William Frederick Hegel, which is funny. He says that the three oaths are not halakhically binding, even though they are. We have a lot of COINTELPRO going on here to stop Jewish resistance against Zionism and to stop Palestinian resistance against Zionism. Yeah. But it is interesting, isn't it? In fact, people think, well, liberal wants to get rid of guns, and then the left wing will want to get rid of guns as well. No. Unless you're the fifth columnist socialist like Chris Hedges, who fails miserably. I mean, I commend him for the good that he's done, but he was not able to make his lawsuit against Barack Obama succeed. I'm, of course, referring to the lawsuit against the NDAA. I believe it was the 2012 NDAA or whatever. Section 1022, I think it is. I mean, there's parts of this bill that allow for the indefinite detention of American citizens. This ensures that the Patriot Act will keep getting renewed, which pretty much is... Okay, I'm digressing. So let me just get on to the point. Martial law, bad, okay? And police, bad. And why must we demonize parents to uplift public school teachers who are going to become worse and more fascistic if these schools get privatized? Why should these teachers be allowed to arm themselves? Especially when... Well, okay, look, I'm okay. So, to be clear now, I am not saying that every mother and every father is good. I am not saying that every public school teacher is evil. What I and the rest of us say in the Jewish Bundist diaspora movement is that arming teachers is a sign of martial law, and that the rising police state of within America is what I mean. It's a sign of the police state. Okay, all right. Now, solution: minorities ought to form militias, and from the age of 16 years and older, these militias should be authorized to deputize the most disciplined of these young teenagers. All right. to carry these firearms to protect other students from people like Nicholas Cruz. Minorities, by the way, include Catholics, not just those who are Jewish or Muslim. Okay, minorities include blacks and Mexicans as well, obviously. But there is a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant supremacy coupled with a white secular humanist supremacy covered with the Mormons. And then who do we have speaking for the Orthodox Jewish community? Chabad. Those people are not minorities. They fill the politics in the United States of America. Highly dangerous people. The messed up the secular humanists pretty much controlling the Democrat Party, and then the cabal of the Chabad and Mormon LDS with the WASP, the White Anglo-Saxon Protestant, which is funny because these groups accuse everybody else. Of course, people will attack Chabad, but Chabad will it's not us, it's the Muslims. Not everybody in Chabad actually says that, but they go after it and say, ooh, Hamas. Okay, I'm not the biggest fan of Hamas. I'm a supporter of Al-Fatah, but Hamas never used human shields, people. They did do things that I don't like. Yes, they fire Scud rockets into Israel, whatever. Whatever, okay? That's not a good thing, but they didn't use people as human shields. But you know what has been proven more than once? And I don't even need to show you this in this documentary. Other people have shown it throughout YouTube. There are so many videos of this, of the Zionist soldiers using Palestinian children as human shields. It's so funny how the elites of this world are willing to not only distort things, but tell you the exact opposite of the facts. You should never forget that Nicholas Cruz is someone who endorsed Donald Trump. Alright? And, by the way, the first ones to say "Make America Great Again," that was during the Reagan campaign in his presidency. Which, from the Reagan era, that meant put America back to sleep, because the 60s and the 70s protests and revolutionary activities and civil rights movements, these have woken people up, put people back to sleep. With Donald Trump's campaign, "Make America Great Again," what that really meant was make it okay to be racist again. Because the United States of America never ceased being racist, but it was no longer socially acceptable throughout a good portion of the society. Well, it's returning to that position. Don't let them take your firearms. The threat is not the drug dealer that the cops let into the country in order for them to be able to arrest people for job security reasons. The threat in this whole world is police. And until police and military cease to exist, civilians should be armed. And you want to protect yourself against a Nicholas Cruz? Marginalize white supremacists. Because we're being marginalized because we didn't do our job. The left wing is for bearing arms. The right wing wants to disarm you, but they play games by arming the police or the public school teachers, which they want to privatize those schools now. How funny. And then, of course, the centrists are openly wanting to grab guns away from the civilians and put them in the hands of even more police and redouble on those police. It's truly, truly insane. So, I now return you to the protest at the Ophir prison.
خلقنا نعيش بذل خلقنا نعيش بحرية عيد وتحية وسلامة للعصرة والأسرى.
Was ist deine Nummer? Are you proud of what you're doing?
اصحى شو اللي كاهرك يا زلمه؟ شو اللي كاهرك؟
You are proud? You are proud of what you're doing?
Oh, he's proud of his doing.
Then what's your name? Tell us, what is your name? Huh? No name, huh?
طبعا no name. روحوا الناس رانا اطلعوا من عندك. روحوا الناس اطلعوا صرفوا.
What is your name?
يلا معك ولا يلا اقلي من هنا معك.
لا للاحتلال لا للاحتلال.
Hey, redst du Jiddisch?
لا للاحتلال. روح بيتك روح.
وإسرائيل دولة إرهاب
وإسرائيل دولة إرهاب.
وإسرائيل دولة إرهاب.
وإسرائيل دولة إرهاب.
is pulling out a grenade. He's grabbing the ring. He's threatening to throw the... it's one of those big black rubber canisters that are sound bomb and gas. Here comes gas. He's the one who threw it. This one here. He just threw the gas canister. Can't take a little noise, huh? There's the gas. Oh, that man's caught in the middle of it. Fortunately, the wind is blowing the opposite direction. Here.
زحوها من وجه هنا.
انا بدي احكي للجبل.
مفيش مجال تطلع جبل.
I'll give you a close-up of what it will looks like. Oh, here the soldiers are coming again. Now they're opening the gate and coming on us. Tearing down the Palestinian flags. There's another flash gas. I got hit. I got hit in the center of my chest. Now they're ordering the journalists away.
Did you see that? Did you see that? They just hit Dr. Weisfeld with a gas grenade. This is a gas grenade which fires off. Then the head formed around a disc about 2.5 centimeters, I think, across an inch, with a smaller ring on top. That flies out, basically, and then explodes on contact. This rubber grenade formed into a rubber ball bounces along in an unpredictable manner until the top flies off and might hit any place. Alright? That soldier just threw the grenade directly at Dr. Weisfeld. The rubber head hit him in the chest, compressing his chest while burning his sweater. As he is about to notice, his sweater has been burned.
Anyway, he's going to have to throw another one. There it is. He's throwing it against the journalists. قايدك! There. Documented. They're attacking the journalists. No demonstrators here right now. Everybody's retreated. There. He's taking a flag and throwing it down on the ground. There's more flags still flying. This demonstrator is defying them, so is he. Another one. What is this? Is the piece that's been pushed out by the grenade. It's probably what hit me in the chest. Oh, burned my sweater.
ابعد بلفوا لك من فوق ابعد اسمع بقول لك بلف من فوق ابعد
Here's all the journalists. Now they're advancing. They're going after the demonstrators down there. They just threw another one down. There it goes. Oh yes, they want to make the way for the supply trucks to come in here. Oh, here's another one. Oh, camera fell down, damaged. There's another one. It shoots out this thing on the top. That's what hit me before. I'm going to bring the truck in to supply the prison. Yeah, BP22. Here. I'll show you the what exploded.
ارفع ايدك في العالية. تعالوا هان. ارفع ايدك في العالية.
Here's the writing.
يا غالي. كتبوا يا اخوان. تعالوا يا اخوان. تعالوا. نفحنا عسكريا.
New type. Shoots off the top.
والاسير مدنهم. اسرائيل دولة ارهاب.
Okay, let's see how bright they are. Oh, yes. Oh. What's the problem? You afraid of journalists? What?
واسرائيل دولة ارهاب. واحنا منها ما بنهاب. واسرائيل دولة ارهاب. يا جماهير انضموا الينا.
يكتب على المسدس.
يكتب على المسدس.
يكتب على المسدس.
والاسر المقدس.
Soldiers have just arrested somebody on top of the hill there. Yeah, soldiers are right on top there with a jeep.
Okay, next up, what we're going to see now is Dr. Weisfeld confront Zionists who have no Jewishness left in them. And so now, to the terrible naysayers that I will be like, well, Dr. Weisfeld is an agnostic, who is he to say anything? Agnostic or not, he's practicing Orthodox Judaism. Not just Judaism, but Orthodox Judaism. I know the man, okay? So, in the words of my friend Yuri, nobody could question him at any time. And I think I just paraphrased you, Uri. So, are you there in the background? Right. Okay. So, you're gonna see him. You're gonna see Dr. Abraham Weisfeld denounce Zionists, and then we're gonna skip right to him being taken in by the medics, where he's going to videotape and film somebody in worse condition at the point than he is at the time. He's going to show you what the injury on his chest looks like. And before that, you're going to see him denounce the Zionists, as it says in the Talmud, being bold like a leopard.
The threatening journalist there. They're trying to arrest the journalist. Taking a camera as well. What's the problem? This is a dictatorship or democracy? You proud? What's your name?
روحوا لغاد.
Bist du Jid? Du denn?
أنا بوقفك. روح لغاد.
روح على السيارة.
لا لغاد.
على السيارة بدي اركب السيارة واروح.
تروح لغاد هسه كلكم.
طب السيارة.
تروحوا لغاد. قديمة.
كابتن السيارة كان نحن واخذينها بيتك صار مرة.
نحن تعالوا على ركبة السوري ما ينام.
بس نحن والخيم اخشاب.
السوري ما ينام.
لا متسلمين. تلة يعني حضورك تلة.
لو ميكانيل كاتسين. انتوا خيفتك كاتسين.
عمي لا تشيلي هو لا دخل. هو صحفي. هو بتعود تلي اني احذركم. خلص قربوش عليه شو بلكي الرجل. خلي الرجل. مين اللي
Another journalist being arrested. I think there's a journalist in this jeep now detained. That's his face. Orange beard. Are you proud? Okay. What's the problem? Are you afraid of me? Why? I have no gun. You have a gun. I don't have a gun.
You can film inside the car. You can't. Because
But you can't arrest a journalist.
But you can't. It's the army.
Maybe, okay, but you can't arrest a journalist either. It's not a dictatorship. And are you Jewish? I don't think so. I am Jewish. You are not. You are Zionist. There's a difference. You have to learn something from me.
You can't.
Yeah, she knows English, but she doesn't know anything about the law. Okay, this man, he was sprayed in the face with cayenne powder spray, and he was hit on the leg by a rubber bullet. He's being given oxygen right now. We're going to the hospital. We're traveling in the ambulance of the Red Crescent Society. And I'm in the ambulance because I was hit by the head of a gas grenade in the chest. It was at close range and it burned my sweater and seemed to hit me on the rib here. The redness is gone right now because of the cold pack. But the rib hurts on the inside, so we're going to take an x-ray of it. This man is still sweating profusely even though we're out of the sun.
في جمعة الوفاء للشهداء، في جمعة الانتصار للقدس العاصمة، في جمعة استمرار المقاومة الشعبية ضد هذا المحتل، ضد هذا الإجرام، ضد هذه الحكومة النازية وجيش الاحتلال يواصل أبناء شعبنا الفلسطيني وفي كل نقاط التماس في الشوارع والصدام مع قوات الاحتلال هذا المحتل الذي يحاول أن يوصل رسالة تطمين إلى عصابات المستعمرين المستوطنين. هذا الذي يجب أن نرفضه جميعا، الاحتلال ومستوطنيه إلى زوال، وهذه الأرض فلسطينية وسيرحل هذا المحتل وستنتصر إرادة شعبنا بوحدته الوطنية وبالتوافق الشعبي. هذا الجمهور نزل شتغ الضي ساقوه سادة شتغ الضي ماتك اسمعي ما دايتوناي هل تتكلم لا
بدوش يرد علي
ماذا قلت؟
ضلت عليك
Because I am a refugee from Poland. My uncle, he was a partisan fighting against fascism. Don't make fascism here in Palestine. This is Sector A. Don't be a slave to the Zionists.
For protect himself. For protect himself. No.
One of those. That's him.
What?
No, why are you talking? What? No. It's you.
Slave. He's a slave. He obeys the orders of his Ashkenazi masters. And he thinks he is Jewish. He is taught to be a Zionist, not to be Jewish.
فلسطين عربية فلسطين عربية هم دولة حرامية هم دولة حرامية فلسطين عربية فلسطين عربية هم دولة حرامية هم دولة حرامية جيش الغازي ارحل عنا جيش الغازي ارحل عنا.
Alright, that's very, very good. That was from the first clip. That clip was produced by Dunya. And this next clip is from Dr. Abraham Weisfeld. Now, you'll notice that this is the same thing, just from a different angle. This is now from his angle. So the first angle, you saw it from Dunya, from her camera. Now you're going to see it from Dr. Abraham Weisfeld's camera. It's the same thing. And the reason why you're seeing this is you're seeing this now from two different angles. You're seeing an event from two different angles, which means that you can see just the raw reality. As it's said in the opening credits, this is not staged, okay? This is real. This is real life what you're seeing. And this has everything to do with why there's like desires from high-ups to censor the internet, because this is what they don't want you to see. This is some really, really, really good footage. Good footage. Very good footage. This is the type of stuff that people have been trying to find for a while. Well, come here. Come to the Bundist movement. We will show you these things, and we'll be providing a link, by the way, to Dunya's YouTube channel, as well as Dr. Abraham Weisfeld's channel. I think that it bears mentioning also that we are very, very grateful to Dr. Abraham Weisfeld. I recall that, you know, it was just me and Donna Newman who were pretty much working together, and then we decided to take, based on what Donna Newman has suggested, take the principles and the structure and the logic behind the JPLO and expand it. She used a lot of her aunt's information. In fact, the Bundist movement flag was made by her aunt. And, you know, now we have an actual operation going. And we will create a world court, by the way. A world constituent assembly. I will accuse many of these people myself. And I know Dr. Weisfeld will be the first among us all because he has been in the West Bank. So before any of us talk, we know that he's going to be speaking. We've got a lot to show you in the upcoming years. We hope to cover other issues such as what's going on with the indigenous the indigenous Native American group known as the Mexicans. You know, they're Native American. They're not Latino or Hispanic. As a Sephardic Jewish person, I am Latino and I am Hispanic. But anyway, I digress. Take a look at this footage.
Okay, we're in video mode now. The soldiers are advancing on the demonstration here. Peaceful demonstration with flags only at the Hawara checkpoint.
هذا يوم الغضب اللي اعلنت جماهير الشعب الفلسطيني بوجه الغاصب الاسرائيلي. جبل النار اليوم قرر انه يعلنوا يوم غضب في مواجهه المحتل. ها هم جنود الاحتلال القادمون وها هنا صامدون. نقول باعلى صوت لن نرحل. هذا الجيش هذا المحتل يجب ان نرحل. فداء القدس فداء قضيه اللاجئين سنواصل الغال بالمقاومه. في جمعة الوفاء للشهداء، في جمعة الانتصار للقدس العاصمة، في جمعة استمرار المقاومة الشعبية ضد هذا المحتل، ضد هذا الإجرام، ضد هذه الحكومة.
Was machst du? Why are you here? Go away. Yalla.
والصدام مع قوات الاحتلال هذا
תוריד את המצלמה בבקשה. שטח צבאי סגור.
אני לא דבר עברית.
דיברת עכשיו. Speak English?
Yes.
תוריד את המצלמה בבקשה, שטח צבאי סגור, אסור לצלם.
I have no idea what you're saying.
Turn down the camera now.
Why?
No picture.
Why? Is this a dictatorship? Look, if you shoot anybody, you will be charged in a popular tribunal.
Okay, we don't shoot.
And I will be your accuser.
Okay, we don't shoot, go back.
Then leave us alone.
Need to go back.
Why?
It's a military area.
No, it's not. This is a public highway. This is Nablus, Sector A. Yes or no? No? Huh. After the checkpoint is Sector A. Why is there a checkpoint there?
The kids throw stones. Picture them.
I did. There's no one person throwing stone. That's all. Why? I'm journalist.
We already talked. Don't tell.
Why? Give me a reason why. Is this democracy or dictatorship?
The fifth time I want to say you, turn down the camera.
Why? Give me a reason. One reason.
Military area.
Why? Military area? No, this is a highway. You cannot make this whatever you want. This is not a dictatorship. I'm from Canada. I'm a journalist. En ik ben hier toch het. Ok, ça c'est la stratégie. Il doit être responsable pour leurs actions. Il a promis qu'il ne va pas tirer.
Ils viennent de tirer juste avant.
Oui.
انسحاب 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 جيش الموت والارهاب جيش الموت والارهاب جيش الغازي ارحل عنا جيش الغازي ارحل عنا انت غريب في موطننا انت غريب في موطننا انسحاب 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 جيش الموت والارهاب جيش الموت والارهاب انسحاب 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 يلا قديمة جيش الغازي ارحل شوف يلا قديمة خلص البرنامج خليه حلقة يلا يلا نواف روح يلا روح الماشيين طالعين روح البيت روح البيت من رايح البيت تدسش طيب
What's the problem?
تعامل باحترام معنا يلا صور هاي انا هون فلسطين عربية فلسطين عربية
What, you're ashamed of what you are doing? Are you, when you go home, you say you are proud. Here you are ashamed.
أمي دولة حرامية فلسطين عربية فلسطين عربية اسكت مسلمة حبس يلا اسكت مسلمة اسكت
What?
No
Are you
picture
ashamed? Why? Give me a reason why.
كاخا.
You are ashamed?
Yes
Oh, then stop doing what you are doing.
I don't speak English يلا اطلع
تغاس يدش?
لا Hebrew
No, لا عبريت. يدش.
زيتونين 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 زيتونين
You can't arrest a journalist. He thinks he can arrest a journalist.
روح البيت אמרתי לך להוריד את המצלמה, נכון? אמרתי לך לא לצלם, לא לצלם!
Illegal.
לא לצלם!
You want to be charged in future?
לא לצלם!
Don't touch.
دبي هاي يلا دبي يلا يلا روح يلا اطلع 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 يلا اطلع اطلع روح البيت اطلع يلا روحوا يلا البيت البيت يلا يلا خليه يجي معنا بنروح وين خليه يجي يطلع البيت خليه يجي معانا بنروح رايحين محنا رايحين مسكت ليه متى عملت خلاص
Hey. What's your problem? You want me to charge you if you arrest me?
I want to get charged. I want to be slow.
You want to arrest a Jewish person in the supposed land of his... Anna Yehudi. Are you Jewish?
Yes, but you have to...
You are Jewish? Me too, so leave me alone. You have to be a Jewish. You cannot shoot anybody. You cannot kill anybody. You cannot hurt anybody if you are Jewish.
Why you have coffee?
Because I am a refugee from Poland. My uncle, he was a partisan fighting against fascism. Don't make fascism here in Palestine. This is Sector A. Don't be a slave to the Zionists.
Protect themselves. Protect themselves.
It's a military.
You put one of thought people. No, they catch him.
What?
Why are you talking? What? No, it's a little youth.
A slave. He's a slave. He obeys the orders of his Ashkenazi masters. He thinks he is Jewish. He is taught to be a Zionist, not to be Jewish. Okay, en avance.
The Bundist movement is a political organization that seeks Jewish autonomous rights collectively for the Jewish people and protection for the rights and practices of Judaism. Our policies on Jewishness are Orthodox in nature, and yet we recognize modern Orthodox Judaism, conservative Judaism, Reconstructionalist Judaism, and Reform Judaism. The Jewish Bundist diaspora movement holds no animosity towards the Satmar Jewish community. We, the Jewish Bundist diaspora movement, recognize Satmar and their organization, the True Torah Jews. However, we at the Jewish Bundist diaspora movement feel that Satmar does not represent the Torah culture or the religious covenant of Moses, our teacher. As the Bundist movement aims to be kosher, we do respond to a type of international leadership in our Jewish public relations. And as far as we recognize, it is the Naturia Carta Juri that are the leaders of our generation. Any and all disagreements we might have with the ultra-Orthodox shall be met only on the grounds of Torah. However, this is an internal affair among Jewry and hence does not concern those non-Jewish.